I danced like fire until they said my body was wrong. This story tells of how weight loss lights stole my beats and how I fought it. I'm not Lola from TikTok. I'm not the rooftop queen in high-waist jeans and crop top, doing Zanko and Shoki. No, this is the Lola who hid behind smiles. And yes, I'm that Lola. Let me tell you what really happened. I danced like my soul was on fire. That's the first thing to know. Strangers talked. Lecturers knew me. My videos trended. My body a revolution. Sure, their laughter burned sometimes, but I was unstoppable. I didn't care about my rolling thighs and singing thighs, and that stupid weight scale could choke on its numbers for all I cared. But then came the DM. Promise. Lose weight in weeks. Secret herbs. No side effects. And I believed them. Empty warehouse. Chains. Darkness. This is how dancing led to hell and how I fought back. Stay with me. She's good for her size. She's kinda big, but she can move. Imagine how sharp and fast she'd be if she were slimmer. A dancer with a pot belly. Those were the comments of people on my videos. And I ignored them. But deep down, I was doubting myself. When someone says something at the exact moment you're already doubting yourself, it hurts more. I tried to act like I didn't care. I went to rehearsal. But later that night, I sat on the toilet and scrolled through my dance videos again. Then, I deleted all of them from my page. After that, I spent most of my time watching fitness reels, watching what girls who made it were eating. I watched a girl steam plain cabbage for dinner, and I promised myself I'd do the same. Another girl swore by apple cider vinegar. I tried that too. It gave me heartburn. Soon, my phone forgot I ever loved to dance. All it gave me were weight loss hacks and before and after photos. All those videos, each whispering the same lie. You could be happy if you just look like this. At uni, I started skipping rehearsals. I told them I was busy, that I needed to focus on other things. But I couldn't stand being the only one whose stomach bounced when I jumped. I stopped dancing, and that's exactly where it all began. It started with a DM. The profile had no posts, just one display picture of a gold lion head. The username was something like @SlimFireHerbs78. The message said, "We help dancers burn fat with ancestral herbs. No gym and stress. We sell pure roots." I read it all over again, contemplating whether I should go further or not. My heart prevailed when I clicked the page link. It took me to a WhatsApp number. The profile photo showed a bunch of plastic bottles lined up on a wooden table with brown liquid inside. I couldn't tell what it was. I sent a private message. "Hi, I'm interested." He replied immediately. "Come to Bell's shopping mall tomorrow, 2 p.m. Come alone. Don't eat before coming." I should have paused. I should have told someone. But I didn't because I wanted it badly. I wanted to change. I thought, finally, this was my chance. The next day, I wore my longest black hoodie, the one that reached halfway down my thighs. Then I wore tights underneath. No makeup, no earrings, just lip balm. I didn't want to draw attention. My friend thought I was going for a fellowship. I took a bike ride to the mall. It was sunny and hot. The street pulsed with life. People were everywhere buying snacks. Students dodged traffic with backpacks, swinging, while street vendors fanned smoke meats, calling out prices. The mall was noisy, and somehow I felt safe, like darkness had no place here. I stood near the cold stone shop sign, just like he said. He walked up to me exactly at 2 p.m. He wasn't tall. He was slim, probably in his late 30s. He He wore a white kaftan with brown slippers with sunglasses. He had a Bluetooth earpiece in one ear. "You messaged me?" he asked, not removing the sunglasses. I nodded. "Yes, from Instagram." He looked me up and down slowly and smiled. "Following. The herbs are in my car." I hesitated at first, but the images of people laughing at me flashed through my eyes, and I followed. We passed the line of taxis, then the KFC cafeteria, then the parking lot. He kept walking, past where the security cameras reached, past where the sound of the crowd could help me. I wanted to ask, how far is this car? But I didn't want to sound impatient or rude. I needed this. We got to his car. No, it was an old grey van with tinted windows, and the sliding door was already open. He looked at me and said, "Enter. We'll talk better inside. People are watching." I hesitated again. Why should I get into your car to talk? Why can't you tell me all I need to know about the herbs outside? Before I could complete my words, two men came from behind and grabbed me by my arms and my waist. I screamed, but it didn't get that far because no one looked at me as they threw me inside and slammed the door shut. The music started. It was a familiar AfroBeats, one of my favorites. Back then, I would dance to the song on loop in front of my mirror. I first danced to it at Freshers' Night. Now it was the soundtrack to my kidnapping. I tried to crawl to the door, but one of them kicked me back down. Captivity is silence, not just around you, but inside you too. It's like your mind doesn't know what to say to itself anymore. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Something like burnt oil, stale sweat, and wet nylon. The air was heavy. It pressed down on my skin. The second thing I noticed was the silence. I mean, real silence. Silence hung thick. No sound of generators, no cars' horns, not even the distant pulse of a neighbor's radio. Just the kind of quiet that makes your own breathing sound too loud. I was lying on a piece of thin foam, dusty and sagging in the middle. There was no pillow or blanket, just the foam and my own hoodie, now damp with sweat. My wrist hurts. I looked down. Shackles, not like the ones in movies. These ones were ugly, rusted, and heavy. They had leather straps too, probably to stop them from cutting into our skin too fast. They weren't new. Someone had worn them before me. There were 4 other girls. One was probably just 16. Her hair was in scattered twists. Lips were cracked. Another was older than me, maybe in her late 20s. She was mumbling something under her breath. I couldn't tell if it was prayer or panic. Nobody spoke. We just stared at each other in turns and then looked away. The so-called warehouse was big, but there was no real space. Corrugated iron roof, one flickering bulb, a locked iron door, and in one corner, 2 blue buckets. One for drinking, one for everything your body begged to forget. This wasn't a place. This was an altar, and we were the sacrifice. There were no mirrors, no phones, no clocks, not even wristwatches. The sliding in of football became our measure of time. That's how I knew we survived another day. A short and round man with a gold tooth and a tattered green singlet. He dragged in a silver bowl filled with gari, soaked in palm oil and water. His footsteps were our clock. That bowl, our only proof of time, still moving forward. Eat, he'd say, and watch us like we were goats. At first, I refused. I thought, they brought me here to shrink me. Why are they feeding me this nonsense? But I was wrong. They weren't trying to shrink me. They were trying to fatten me. That was the punishment, definitely. They didn't want our skin to glow. They wanted it to stretch. They wanted us full, ripe for whatever they were planning. Ransom, resale, whatever. And when I couldn't eat anymore, they forced me. One girl vomited. They made her lick it off the floor. No one cried. Maybe we were too weak, or maybe the crying happened inside, where nobody could hear. My body started changing, slowly, painfully. My face puffed first, then my thighs. My belly got rounder. My waist disappeared. I started sweating more, even when I wasn't struggling to move. My tights got tight. I couldn't stand up without holding my back. Back then, I danced for hours until the world blurred without stopping. I didn't just move to music. I was the music. Now, I couldn't even sit cross-legged. One morning, I tried to stretch once, but my body fought back. Everything inside me felt stiff. I barely recognized myself. When I begged one of the guards, "Please, can I move for a minute? Let me remember how my body used to dance." He looked at me and laughed. What's left to perform for? So I stopped asking. Days passed, or maybe weeks. I don't know. The only sound in the warehouse was the generator. Food. Generator. That's how I handled my life. I started talking to myself inside my head, just to stay safe. Some nights, I would close my eyes and hear it all again. Mama's voice calling under my bedroom door at dawn. "Lola, wake up, oh! The plantains won't fry themselves." The way Ayo would slap her thighs and hold whenever I pulled off a new move. Her laughter ringing louder than the campus DJ speakers. These weren't just memories. They were lifelines. And in the dark, with only the stench of the buckets for company, I'd tie them around my waist like a rope, praying they'd be enough to keep me from drowning. I imagined myself dancing again, but it felt unreal, like a dream that didn't belong to me anymore. One night, something happened. The generator stopped. At first, I thought I had gone deaf. Then I realized this was silence. Real silence. The one I met when I first got here. And somehow, it was louder than the generator. I tried to sit up when I heard music. No, it wasn't in the warehouse, because it was faint, like someone had just played a song on their phone without headphones. And it was AfroBeats. I didn't know the song, but I knew the rhythm. Dancers always knew. My toes twitched suddenly. Then my knees shook. My body remembered, even if I didn't want to, even if I couldn't move. The beat entered through the crack in the wall and started moving through me, slowly, like my own blood. And that's when I knew I wasn't gone yet. The first time I danced again, I was lying down with my face up and eyes shut, fingers tracing the air like paint brushes. My legs twitched in rhythms against the cold floor, my ribs remembering the bass line before my ears did. It wasn't a movement, it was a memory. And for 3 stolen minutes, the warehouse had a ceiling made of stage lights. The music was still playing faintly through the wall. The same Afrobeats from the night before, or maybe a different one. I couldn't tell, but the bass was soft and round, like breath. I blinked up at the ceiling and moved my toes. That night, after food, I tried again. This time, I bent one knee and held it for 10 seconds, then switched. Then I stretched one arm, then the other. The shackles didn't allow full motion, but they allowed enough. The other girls just looked. Some were confused, some were tired, but nobody stopped me, and I was glad, Because I wasn't dancing for applause or videos. I was dancing for breath. Days passed and my dance got braver. I started practicing when the guard stepped out to smoke. At first, my body moved like a stranger and bounced lightly, my heels barely lifting. Then, my muscles remembered before my mind dared to. Each twist, a quiet rebellion against all that tried to make me steal. The warehouse floor was rough and dusty, with uneven paths. Sometimes I whispered lyrics to myself, songs I remembered from campus shows and TikTok. Anything to keep the beat alive in my head. When I walked to the blue buckets to pee, I moved like a tourist. My eyes studied the walls. I memorized everything I laid my eyes on. I noticed things now. The guard with the gold tooth always scratched his chest before leaving. The tall guard with the braided beard always came to evening watch with a bag of peanuts. Liked to chew peanuts. You can track his rounds by the sound of the crinkling of paper and the crunch between his teeth. The way he would throw the shells at our feet like we were chickens waiting for scraps. The toilet breaks came at odd hours, but they were always 10 minutes long. I started pretending to be quiet and obedient, while inside me, something was boiling. Once a week, they weighed us. There was this dusty digital scale that they used. They'd call us out one by one and record our weight in a green notebook. The goal was to get bigger, fatter. I started tricking the scale. I figured out that if I leaned over so slightly on the wall while standing, I could tilt the number higher. Sometimes I drank water, 3 cups full, just before weighing. They clapped for me one day. She's growing well. I smiled, but they didn't know I was dancing it all off by midnight. I was losing something, but it wasn't weight. I was losing fear. The buyer came on a Sunday when the warehouse stood very quiet. I remember because the air smelled like early rain. The rain was light. They cleaned us up a little by powdering our faces and wiping our necks with damp towels. We were also allowed to change our clothes. They gave me a lemon green wrapper to tie around my chest and another one for my waist. My skin felt sticky inside it. My hair was scattered, but they didn't fix it. Just patted it down and said, "She looks raw. Foreigners like raw food." Then he came, the buyer. He was tall and fair, with thick lips and a navy blue jacket. He didn't look like the others. He smelled of something cold and expensive. His eyes moved slowly over each of us, like we were items on a shelf. The guy with the braided beard said, "This one can dance. She was a performer." The man raised his brow. "Show me." My heart pounded in my ears. I looked at the man again, then at the guards, then at the girls behind me. "Show me!" he thundered. I jumped in fear, my heart pounding faster. Before I stepped forward, barefoot, the music played. "Oh no, you chose the wrong song," I thought in my head, courage running down my veins. It was the same AfroBeats rhythm from my first night, the one that had woken something in me. It was mid-tempo, smooth, but I turned it into war. I bent my knees, rolled my shoulders, and twisted like the dancer I was. The man looked surprised. I bent deeper, my eyes fixed on his. I moved faster, spinning. It was a dance for girls who didn't cry anymore. Then I fell on my heel, right on the digital scale, producing a loud cracking sound. The screen broke and the guards shouted, but I was already moving, running, my heel dripping with blood. I hooked my shackles against the loose wooden edge by the door, and it came loose. The other goat followed too. Then my arms. I was free, sweating and bleeding, but free. Stop her! The guards shouted as I ran towards the back exit. I didn't know what was behind it, but I knew what was behind me. So I ran. AfroBeats in my ears, fear in their voices, fire in my chest. I was in a wildfire once. Now, they want me to be ash. But even ash remembers how to burn. Maybe because back then, I danced like my life depended on it. Now, my life had already danced for its survival. It looked smaller than I remembered. Just a few wooden panels held together, with nails and duct tape. But the lights were bright, and the speakers were very loud, and my name was on the flyers again. But this time, it was the real me who danced to breathe. It had been about 5 months, but the world outside had moved on. I wore a long sleeve black crop top, something I bought off campus for 2,500. My pants were cargo style with drawstrings at the ankle. My shoes were worn out sneakers that I had scrubbed the sides so hard with detergent that morning. But the brown stain still showed, just like the scar on my shoulder that I didn't bother to cover. My tummy folded in 3 when I sat. I didn't tuck it in. Some girls backstage had waist beads, pretty makeup, and laid hair edges. I had breath and memory. When the music came on, I didn't rush like I normally did. I let it enter me. It wasn't like before when I used to jump into every beat like I had something to prove. I listened to it first, then allowed my hips to think. The bass dropped, and I dropped with it. I didn't dance for the crowd. I didn't dance for claps. I danced because my body had spent months locked up in a warehouse, growing under force-fed oil and fear. And now, it had space. Not freedom, nor justice. Space. I think that was enough. It wasn't that my moves were clean. I had spent months locked up. I missed the count, almost slipped at a turn. I could feel sweat run into my bra, but I didn't stop. After the performance, as I walked out of the hall, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned, and behold, it was Fola, my old crush from year 2. The Fola who used to say I wasn't graceful enough. Lola, don't try too hard. Just leave this thing called dance. He once whispered to me. He looked different now. His beard had grown, and he was taller. He cleared his throat nervously. I didn't know you still danced. I almost died, I said in my head as I stared at him. I almost couldn't recognize him. Instead, I smiled and replied, "You wouldn't." Then I walked away, the scar on my leg peeking out from my pants. There is no perfect ending here. I didn't win a trophy. I didn't trend. I didn't get signed to some big label. I didn't even get proper feedback from the judges. They just nodded and said a thank you. But that night, I went home with my body in one piece. Not because it looked like the old me, but because I could feel every part of it again. This story teaches us that sometimes healing doesn't look like healing. Sometimes survival doesn't look like a win. It looks like a girl dancing with shackles on her ankles, finding her strength gradually. The greater lesson here is that you don't have to lose weight to feel powerful. Just be yourself. The lesson: you don't always bounce back. Sometimes you may have to crawl forward with old sneakers and shaky ankles. And even when the rhythm leaves, you'll find it again in the most unlikely places. And when you do, you dance. Not because you're okay, but because you're still here. Did you judge too fast? This story proves what happens when we judge without knowing the full truth. Just like everyone judged Lola before understanding her pain. Answer honestly. Would you have seen her as heartless, suspected a deeper story, shown mercy first? And guess what? Next week's video will warm your heart in ways you can't imagine. Tap the subscribe button and turn on notifications so we can continue sharing stories that matter together. Share if you believe every story has two sides. Binge more below. These life-changing twists will make you question everything.